The Zurich group, okay, the area broke up after the war, and the members returned to their home countries and started the movement. Enclave is an area within a country where the people who live there have different nationalities and cultures than the people lives who lives in the surroundings country. Do you understand? It's the area where people who have different nationality or culture lives within a country. Okay. Some of the groups, as in Berlin, became political, and they used art as a form of political protest. Do you understand? So what is this part about? What the people, what the Dadaists did to spread the word, to spread the meaning of Dada, all right? They published a journal, and they, using Zurich as a base, they appealed to other countries' artists and writers. And after the war ended, they appealed to the veterans because they had a rich experience of war. But the area in Zurich broke up after the war, and the people returned to their home countries to start the movement. And some groups, as in Berlin, became political and used their art as a political protest. Okay. So, what is this part about? Dada movement disappeared, has come to an end, because the founders realized that it was actually becoming an established form of art, okay? A fixed form of art, generally accepted form of art, okay? But this was what its beginners were against, all right? Adamantly means determined not to change their mind. Do you understand? The movement had no center. There was no ruling city or country after the breakup of the Zurich group. Dominant means being more powerful or influential than others. A short period of the movement being active again in Paris seemed to contradict this fact, but the movement towards surrealism had already begun, and it was actually the process got faster by the disagreements between the members in the Paris Dada. Okay. Revival, brief means short. Revival is something being active again, okay, or popular again. Belie means to make something a lie, okay. It means it hides the true situation and give a false idea or image of something. All right. Accelerate means to make the process faster and faster. Although the life of this movement was short, and the founders, the beginners, thought was not to be anything, Dada became something, and what it left can be found in the artists' protests, which is common today. Commonplace means found often or happening often. Do you understand? Okay. So what is this part about? The Dada movement has come to an end, had come to an end, because the founders realized that it was becoming an established form of art, which they were against, okay? And they had no center for this activity or movement. There was a short, the movement became active again for a very short time in Paris in the 1920s, but the movement towards surrealism has begun, and there was a disagreement between the members in the Paris Dada, and this disagreement had made the process of moving towards surrealism faster. This movement had a short life, and the beginners didn't want to be anything, but it became something, and what they left can be found in the artists' protests of the to the established order even today. Do you understand? So let's look at the questions. Carnage is closest in meaning to. It was a reaction to the what of the war. So what? The cruelness, the violence, right? So you can infer. So what's the bloodshed, right? Bloodshed is a violence where people are killed or wounded. Warfare is the activity of fighting a war. So the answer is A. The word ephemeral in the passage is closest to what? Ephemeral, even if you don't know the meaning, right? It's a hard word. Look, if you look at the sentence before, it began in 1916 and started to fade by mid-1920, so it's only 10 years, so you can say it's short lifespan. So brief is the answer, right? The author's description of Dada mentions all of the following, but what? It lasted for around 2 decades, yet it was influential in the art world. Is this right? No, right? Started in 1916 and ended mid-1920, so it's around 10 years. It's not 2 decades, it's 1 decade, so A is wrong. It had a great effect on other movements throughout the 20th century. Is this right? Because most of the Dadaists moved to other movements, and a lot of them turned to surrealism, so it had a great effect on other movements in the 20th century, right? So what else? That's right. It started because of a war that was taking place at the same time of its founding. Is this right? The short lifespan was equal to the war and the situation after the war. So it happened at the same time as the war. Its members had no interest in acting in the way in which society expected them to. Is this right? It's right. Because, what did he say? Disregard for social conformity. So ignoring the social convention. So this is right. So which one is wrong? A is wrong, right? So A is the answer. Why does the professor mention surrealism? To name one art movement that Dada had an influence upon. It's not to name one art movement, okay? It's to say that Dada, people from Dada mostly moved to surrealism, alright? To explain the reason why Dada did not remain important for long. This has nothing to do with the period. Compare its effects on the 20th century with those of Dada's. The author didn't mention surrealism to compare with Dada, compare the effects with Dada. To note what happened to Dada's followers after the movement died. This is right, because it mentioned surrealism because the passage is talking about what happened to Dadaists after the war, because it had short lifespan. A majority turned to surrealism, so this is right. So D is right. The author's description of the beginning of Dada mentions which there was much thought involved in the name its founders gave the movement. Is this right? No, right? They picked the word having the least amount of sense, so this is wrong. The people who founded it were actors as well as various kinds of artists. Is this right? Artists and performers. So this can be right. You don't know if it's various kind of various kinds of artists, but it says artists and performers, so this can be right. It was founded by a group of Swiss who were opposed to the ongoing war. Ongoing means it's been done for a period of time and it's expected to be to continue for some time. Okay, so is this right? It's not by a group of Swiss. It's the people from other countries in Europe who escaped to Switzerland, because Switzerland was neutral. So it's wrong. Some of the original founders had fought in the war but later regretted it. The founders had fought in the war? No, right? They escaped to Switzerland because they were opposing to the war. So this is wrong. So which one is right? B should be the answer that you should pick.